This is a continuation of the last lecture. I'm going to be talking about the mindset necessary to overcome collusion and resolve conflict. Elite athletes will tell you that winning is 90% in the mind. And it's also true in managing our relationships. We have to get our mind and our thinking right if we're going to become a master at collaboration and resolving conflict. So I'm going to present a number of strategies that facilitate conflict resolution. And oftentimes using one or more of these strategies actually reduces, even sometimes resolves conflict without going through all of the steps of dialogue or all of the steps of conflict resolution. So the more you understand, the more you begin to use these strategies, the more masterful you'll become at managing what's going on in your relationships. One strategy is to look at your contribution during collusion. Looking at your contribution doesn't mean that you're the cause, that you're at fault, or even that you're the main contributor to a conflict. However, the truth is it takes two to tango. You have a part in what's happening. Your part might be as much as 95% or as little as 5%, but you have a part. Can you take accountability for the spin that you're putting on the other person's behavior, or for the things that you're doing or things that you're saying that have caused or contributed to the conflict, or which keep it going? Don't look so much at what others are doing or not doing. That'll keep you stuck. Certainly they're also doing their part. But think about how you're reacting and what you, again, might be saying or doing that provokes the other person to behave in ways you don't like. And do this without self-blame, by the way. Do it without shaming yourself, getting down on yourself. You're simply looking for truth in a non-judgmental and in an objective way. The second strategy is to take responsibility for yourself. This, by the way, is different than contribution. Let's look at the collusion model again. What are you responsible for in the collusion model? First, let me say that you're not responsible for the other person's perceptions and feelings or behavior. They own these 100%. You don't cause them, you can't fix them. On the other hand, you own 100% responsibility for your own perceptions and thoughts, feelings, and behavior. Person B does not cause you to think or feel or behave a certain way. They may be a trigger, but they don't cause you to feel and think a certain way. And to believe that they do is to give away your personal power and leave you at the mercy of other people. Just taking this ownership can be a huge relief. It gives you power back. It allows you to know that you're the source of each of these and that you have choices about how you think and feel and behave. And I talk about this in a lot greater depth in other programs, in my happiness program. Strategy 3 is to think through 3 different stories. Your own, that of the other party to the conflict, and the third story, the story that a neutral observer would tell. Of course, you know your own story best. It's the story that you're vested in. And it's okay to be clear about this story, not for the purpose of gathering evidence to prove yourself right, but to be clear about your thoughts and your feelings and what is important to you and what you need. And ask yourself, do you like the story you're telling? Is it producing the results you want? Or might you be able to tell yourself a different story, and what might that sound like? How might it help you deal more effectively with this particular person that you're in conflict with? Now I want you to think through, or maybe even write down, the other person's story. I know you're speculating to some extent, but it's the best you can do until you're talking face to face. Write down how you think the other party sees the situation. What story is he or she telling? How is it different from your story? As you begin to tell a story from the other person's point of view, you're developing an openness and flexibility that's necessary to enter into successful negotiation. You might also consider writing or thinking through a third story. And this is the point of view of a mature, neutral third party, a counselor, a mediator, a mentor whom you've asked to help you resolve this conflict, hypothetically. He or she has heard both stories. Now write down the story that he or she would tell about this conflict. Well, then think about, how does writing this story from 3 different points of view matter? How might it shift your view of what's happening and how you might respond?